Hey everybody, it's me again. I just need to thank all of you who just poured into me yesterday when I put a post on social media that I thought was sounded kind of needy when I was like, "Please, I need y'all's help. Send me warm vibes, send me energy. I'm doing something really brave and really scary today." And in a keynote. And wow, you responded, you showed up for me, you sent me messages, you sent me text. It overwhelmed me, so I apologize that I couldn't respond to everybody and have something personal to say to each one of you. It just knocked me over. And several of you, and by the way, I could feel the energy and the love coming from you. Man, I'm going to do that more often. I'm a very private person and I often don't do things like that, but I'm going to do more of it because it was just such a beautiful gift you gave back to me and reminded me of the warmth and community. So several of you in the thread said, well, don't leave us hanging. We want to know what you did. And I'm sure you were thinking, as wild as Kelly gets, there's no telling. It's probably nudity in a pole, but no, it was nothing like that. Um, and so it's so people anyway are saying you've got to go explain what you did. Tell them. And I'm like, I can't, I can't look at that. I just had a piece of dog fuzz land on my hair. Oh, how funny is that? Did y'all just see that? Okay, Kelly, focus. Anyway, okay. It just floated away. Okay, sorry. I got a German Shepherd and his white hair sometimes just floats through the air. Okay, focus. Sorry. I should redo this. No, I'm not going to redo this. It's fine. So anyway, you need to know what I did to be brave. Well, here's the thing. I don't even know how to tell you. There are so many layers to it um, that I was like, I don't even know how on a thread to just do a post that explains to you what I did. And then one of my friends said, "Well, just put it on a video." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I even had to take notes, y'all. This is how many layers of bravery that I went through yesterday and why I was freaking out a little bit, but not really after all. And by the way, the job went great. It went seamlessly. I could feel it. I don't know what they all thought about it, but it didn't matter because I did it and it's what I want to give to the world. And I know it had the pieces in it that they hired me for. And beyond that, I've just got to trust that this is what I'm supposed to do. So anyway, I wrote down, took notes, bullet points of the 9 levels of bravery that I went through yesterday in my keynote. So, hey, thanks for listening. You must be really bored. But anyway, the first thing was a new brand. Yeah, I've been doing this for whatever, 20 years. I've got a lot of different things going on. Who hijacked my fairy tale? But I'm embracing the Pride's Hollow brand. Well, what does that mean? That means from my newsletters to the material I use in my speeches to the persona I take on stage as editor of the Gazette. I even hold it up and everybody gets one of these at the table. So I am 1000%. Some of you have heard me talk about this forever, and some of you already know Pride's Hollow, but you don't realize that I haven't been doing them in my keynotes. So that the first thing is I'm embracing a complete new brand, and it's affecting every single keynote I do. And the persona on stage, well, it's not a persona, it's true. I'm editor of the Gazette. So that's part of my job. So I'm here to tell you some of the stories that people are telling me. And by the way, if you're not familiar with that brand and that persona, I'll try not to give y'all too many details, but okay, if you're listening, it must be because you care. If you're not familiar, the whole persona, the whole shtick around Pride's Hollow is that Old Man Withers sent us all a letter. And in the letter, everybody in our town got one. He left all his money. He died, left all his money to our town. And all the letter said was in order to get our money, we needed to do something brave. And these are the stories of what we did. And my story is included in that. So that's the whole brand I'm embracing. Many of you have already watched the episode, seen the Pride's Hollow shorts. I'm going all in. It'll be the next theater show when that's ready. So that was level number 1. The second level of bravery, or layer, if you want to call it that, they don't really build on each other, is I needed a personal story inside of this. I said, Kelly, it can't all be about Pride's Hollow. I need to have my own personal story, kind of like I did for those who came to my theater show, the pig story. So actually, I wrote a whole new story of my life story being, and I realized, oh my gosh, this is the story. So my personal story is the kid who was picked on, bullied, who didn't really have friends, who crawled into her own bubble, zipped it up, and found her own imaginary place where she could disappear. That was me. And so this town, Pride's Hollow, was my imaginary place. These people who saved me. So I wrote that story. I had to go deep and figure out, what is that story? What happened to me? Why did I spend my whole life hiding them and being desperate for them to come out into the light? How what was once my refuge became my art. I won't bore you with all the details, but there's a whole story I wrote about the little girl on the bus. So that was another level of bravery. Also, I count that as writing stories aren't hard for me, but this was a new layer of bravery because I'd never gotten that raw and talk about myself to such a vulnerable degree before. So that was another layer. The next layer of bravery is I'm combining fiction and nonfiction. No question about it. I mean, Pride's Hollow is fiction, but my story is real. And so the combination of the two together, to me, is brave. You don't see it to the degree that I'm doing it in other people's keynote speeches. The next layer of bravery is, oh, and by the way, let me add, I'm combining fiction and nonfiction, but that fiction has to feel real. So I want you in my keynotes to really believe that this happened, that Old Man Withers left us a letter, that we're all doing brave stuff, that some people don't know what to do. Some do. They might be doing things like driving a Buick. In my keynote, at least for yesterday, Harriet wants to drive that Buick in her driveway. She's a senior citizen. She's never learned to drive. She wants so it becomes an analogy for what's your Buick. So it has to feel real. It can't feel like, no, we're going to Pride's Hollow. The next layer is that, okay, and I wrote it. Oh, the next layer of bravery is I have my phone ring. I haven't figured out how to really do that well, but the gist of it is that my phone rings and I answer it on stage in the middle of the keynote, and people from my town are calling me. Earl's calling me saying he's got another story for the Gazette. I have a one-sided conversation in the middle of that keynote. Not only, so I craft it. It's funny. It's me talking to them. It's me going, I can't talk. I'm giving a speech. Yes, I'm talking. Yes, I get paid for a living. So it's funny stuff, but it's customized. So every time the phone rings, I'm talking about the audience I'm there speaking to today. So that's pretty cool. Another level of bravery, writing that down, customizing it before every single keynote. And they trigger this, oh, hey, that's why I'm here. I'm editor of the Gazette. You've got one at your tables. That's the reason for the phone calls. Next layer of bravery is I'm telling 3 stories simultaneously. I tell the story of me, the kid on the bus, and these imaginary people, and wanting to bring them out into the light, and worried that nobody will like it, or nobody will want it, or that it'll tank my career to embrace this Pride's Hollow brand. The other story is the Old Man Withers story, how a story saved a town. If I do a TED Talk or TEDx talk, so any of you got any contacts, I want to write a TEDx talk that's called The Story That Saved Our Town, and do it in this same way I'm doing my keynotes. So that's the other story, is he sent us the letter, and here's what everybody's doing with them. And then the third story is a vignette or one specific story about what somebody in that town did. In yesterday's case, it was Harriet driving her Buick. In another case, it'll be a different one. It'll be the story I feel like telling you. And most likely, it will be the story that I have written just for your audience to match your theme, your industry, and whatever you've asked me to come speak about. So it gives me that delightful way to use my Pride's Hollow stories about what people did to be brave, but make it so completely relevant and customized to fit that audience. So how cool is that? Writing a customized story for every audience, if I wanted to, or relying on one that I've already written. So 3 stories in case You're not, I mean, those of you who don't even script out your speeches, your eyes are probably crossing, because that is like surgery. I have never helped anybody do something this complicated. I mean, it is writing 3 stories that happen simultaneously, hopping from one to the other. I don't just tell one, then another, then another. No, they're all woven together, and figuring out where to stop this one, how to get to this one, how to get to that one, what the transitions are and the segues. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of bravery to hope that it works out right. And then there's only 2 more. I'm almost done. The other layer of bravery is content. Believe it or not, I have a lot of content that I can put in here. If they've asked me to talk about the storyline running through your head, mindset, resilience, attitude, I have 6 steps to rewrite your inner script. Yesterday in my keynote, I had 90 minutes. We went through all of them. We went through the activity together. We discussed it. We talked about it. I can go as deep and as heavy into content as I want. And if I'm speaking to a group of realtors the next time and they want to know how to write stories in their businesses, then we pause and we'll go down content into look how the story changed our town. Here's why we were so impacted by it. And here's how and why story will help you sell more. And boom, I go into content. So that was another level of bravery, because you often see people sticking to one lane or the other. They're either heavy content, it's got a few good stories, or heavy on story and it's got a few points and a message. I'm really doing it, all of it. Now, sometimes if I only had 30 minutes or 45 minutes for a keynote, then I would lift out some of that content, do it in a breakout session, or send them to their free gift, because everybody goes to, I even have an imaginary town on Patreon that you can buy a house in. I haven't developed that concept fully yet, but I want there to be a place where you can extend the Pride's Hollow experience. So that already exists if you wanted to go to Patreon and find it, but that's not what I'm talking about today. So that getting the content in there is another layer of bravery, because I am committed. Sorry, I think I sucked up some of that dog hair now. I am committed to doing my programs according to this template. I may truncate things and make it a lot shorter if I have a lot of heavy content to get in, but I am adamant that I am going to merge all of this together, and this will become my brand. Because why can't heavy content be fun, interesting? And the beauty of it is I teach story. So I'm using story to teach story. So everything I use can then become a lesson for, well, how did I do that? How did I create the characters? How did I write the humor? You get how that works. So the last layer of bravery. See why I put a message on yesterday, freaking out, needing y'all to send me some love, because I was going to do it. Well, wait, there's actually two. You got to know that the ink wasn't even dry on all of this. Now, I've been percolating this idea for 20 years. This is what I wanted to do from day one. And I thought, it's too weird. Nobody will buy it. It's too different. And so I buried them all. That's part of the story in the keynote. But the ink was barely dry. And I said to myself, you are going to do this. And I've already been doing some little pieces of it in keynotes, but I was like, not like this, all fleshed out, all written, ready to go. I was like, you're going to do it at your virtual keynote this week. And that's a scary thing. It's because I like to be ready, and I didn't feel 100% ready, but I was like, no, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. No looking back. Life is short. The clock is ticking. You're going to do it before it's too late. So the last level of bravery, though I think there's even more I've not explored yet, little things, was, and by the way, with content was also interaction with the audience. So not only am I weaving in my content, I'm weaving in how to be talking to people the whole way through, how to be relating it to what they're going through, how to ask them a question, how to pull things out of them, how to have a conversation with them all the way through this. Because it's not theater. This is speaking. So we're breaking the fourth wall. We're having a conversation to make their lives better. The last layer of bravery that I had on my note card is that all of this is hard enough to do live on a stage, knowing what the props are. There's going to be a chair over here for me on the bus. There's going to be a phone over here, whatever. All of that is incredibly hard for me to figure out how to do on a stage. Where are you going to be standing? Where are you going to walk over here? Given all those visuals. Yesterday, I had to do all of this in 90 minutes, sitting right here with this background, with no slides, no music, no bells and whistles, not from a studio. Yes, I could have done all of those things, but I chose not to for different reasons in regards to this job. And they were fine with it. They knew this was going to be the intimate way. So this is all hard enough to do live on a stage. And I know some of y'all, the speakers who are listening to this, you're nodding because you all do pretty complicated things on stage as well. It is hard enough to do on a stage, but I had to do it in a Zoom meeting. In a business setting. And I did it. So thank you for encouraging me and sending me the love that I needed to lift me up, take a deep breath and jump. And for the first time ever, and I don't know, I think maybe some of y'all really might need to hear this because it applies to you. For the first time ever, I'm not really worried about how much they liked it. Now, I want my client to be happy. I want their audience to be happy. I want to have checked the boxes. And I checked the boxes for what they hired me to do. Come be funny. Come be motivating. Inspire us. Help us feel valued for what we do. Help us see how our mindset plays into, they wanted the mindset piece of it, how the mindset plays into finding silver linings in the tough times. I did everything they needed me to do and asked me to do. I just wrapped it in a way that I wanted to. So I know they got what they bought. But I'm happy before the first person responds from that audience because I did it. And that's the victory, is really living full into the joy of what you want to create and put out there to the world, which is what the story in the keynote is all about. Is what would you do if you had one more page, one more stage, one more moment to be brave? Tell me, would you, could you consider it would be good to? So the story became the story. And just in case you want to know the ending, it's probably spoiling it, but it's better live. It's not a spoiler. But at the end of it, the last piece is you find out that this little girl on the bus who had this imaginary town of people gets a letter from Old Man Withers, me, at 53 or 54, however old I am. I get a letter and it asks me what I would do if I were brave, and I know what I would do. I would bring these people to the light. And that last little voice says, but wait, you're going to go inspire the world with a town full of people that you made up. They're not real. Pride's hollow isn't real. And then another little voice said, but yes, it is. For it is just as real as the story that you have written to live in. What story are you writing? Yeah. So there you go. That's why I couldn't answer in a thread. Maybe I bored you. Maybe some of you hung on the whole way and have ideas for your own messages or whatever. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I won't be bombarding you with a lot of videos like this. We'll do this over, in my story network. But I just thought for today, you're asking me. So there it is. All right. Take care. Y'all have a good day. Bye, y'all.